All right, let's look at chapter 8. And that is arrays. Prior to now, y'all have looked at individual variables. Everything could contain one value at a time. With arrays, you've got a group of items that are all similar, but they're going to contain the same type of data sitting there in memory, and that it will allow you to process a number of different values at one time. With the array, you've got a variable name there, but then it's got a number of values assigned to it. And you're going to tell it which one of them as you work with it. Now, you're going to use subscripts to assign those values to tell it which specific array element you're talking about. In some languages, the first element is 0, and in some languages, the first element is 1. The book's taking the approach on the first element is 0. Okay? So if you were talking about some field called number that we're going to have multiple values to, we have number, and then parentheses and which one we're talking about. So if we were talking about the first element in it, we'd put a 0 there. So it's going to work from a base of 0. Okay? Now, I say if you go in certain languages, some of them will let you, won't work from 0, but will actually work from 1. But you got to be careful because of that 0, because that's one of them. So if you only had 4 elements in the array, there's going to be the 0 element, the first element, the second, and the third. And that's your total over 4 elements. So you can assign a number of values to it at one time by telling it which one specifically you're talking about. You'll get that variable out of it. Now, there's a number of ways to look at them on it. You can go out and go straight to a specific item by using whichever number for the subscript on it. Or you can use a variable in there for that, and you can actually set up a loop and loop your way through the entire array. It'll make your programs be more efficient and designed better to work with larger numbers in it by using the arrays in there. Very first thing you're going to do is you're going to declare the size of the array. And so you'll declare whatever the name is. In this case we called it number. And then you'll put in where you would put subscript normally. You put the number inside there that tells you how many elements are in it. So, now, it can be a larger number than that, but it's got to contain at least the number of elements you're going to have. And usually you want to try to make it the correct size on it. Sometimes you don't know exactly how many elements, so you got to build it on up a little further on it. Then you can use your for and x statement to sit there and go through them all. Because you can do a for and then some variable name equals, start from 0 to, and then tell it whatever the maximum number it can be, and then tell it the step by 1. So it'll start with the first one at 0, then the first and then the first one, that would be 1, and then 2, and then 3, then 4, then 5. I'm not a big advocate of using the 0 subscript. But they like it in the book, so that's what we're stuck with. And so you can build it, enter the information, and get it. And then remember what I said about using the 0 one, that will bump you down 1 from what you would think it would be on it. You can fill the stuff up out there. A couple of ways you can do on that. You can sit there and do them one by one, or you can actually do a declare statement and do them all in a list right there. So you can use the declare statement like they show you on page 293. Where it says declare integer numbers, parentheses, size, parentheses, or bracket, size, bracket, it's usually parentheses in a lot of languages, equals, and then they got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. What that said is the first element will get assigned 10, the second one 20, the third one 30, the fourth one 40, and the fifth one 50. And so on the previous line, they had declared size equals 5, so when you did that declare right there, you said that this array named numbers is going to have a size of 5 to it, which is interesting on that one. And so, that puts the 10 in the 0, 20 in the 1, 30 in the 2, etc. You can do words the same way as you can do numbers. And they show you right after that where you can go through and put all of the spellings of the days a week out there into an array. And assign each one of those there. And then if you want to refer to print out the word Sunday, in this case you just say that you want to print out days, bracket, 0, bracket, and that would print Sunday for you. And so by just knowing which day of the week it is that you're on, using that as a subscript to it, it would then produce for you the days in words. You can search through the array, and they show you that in terms of a for and x loop or a while loop that says while they're trying to find it is false and the index stays less than or equal to the maximum size, and they actually started from the high end and count it down. So they did -1 counting, and then they set a variable in there called found, that when they did find a match on the number they were trying to find, they set that equals true, or else they went and upped the index by 1 and checked again. And so you're just going to be looking at them one at a time to see if they match out of it. And so it can take a little bit of time to do that through there. Questions on that? Alright, let me pull up Flowgorithm for a second. I want to see if it handles arrays or not, because I'm not sure if it does or not. But you're all going to have to fake it. Yes. So when you go to declare, that will be your declare to declare your array. I thought I had the screen turned on, sorry. give it a second to come up. Darken a little. So when I do my declare statement, then I'd tell it the name of the array that I'm declaring. The number was the one I had up here on the board. I was going to put number right here. Then what type of data is going in that array? Just like you've been doing before in your declare statements. Is it integer or real or whatever? And then there's a box that you got to check to make it an array. It says array. If you check that box, you're now working with an array within your algorithm. So if I click that box and I've declared it, I'm going to call it number. And I don't have to tell it what size of an array is this, how many items are going to be in it. And in my case, I'm going to make it 6. Just an arbitrary number I drew out of the sky. And notice it says integer array that's called number, and there's 6 elements in it. Now if I went on down to the next line and just assigned a value to the first element, so I'm going to make number and I'm not sure if these are square brackets or parentheses because the book's been using square, so I'm going to stay with that for the second. Declare it 16. And then I'm going to tell it to print that variable. And if I run this program now, notice it printed out 16 for me. So if we look back at what I've done here in Algorithm, Algorithm is going to work fine for you as far as doing arrays. I declared the array. I then told it that the 0 element of number I want to set to the value of 16. And then I told it I wanted to output that 0 element of number and equip. Well, when I ran it, it declared it, assigned that value, and then it printed the value of that 0 element, so it printed 16 right there for me. Questions on that? So we walked through one there in Algorithm for you. All right, questions on how we're assigning values in there to the arrays? Now I want to flip back over here for a second. All right, questions on all of that? The other part, what they're going to show you in here is they're going to show you how to search an array, and then they mention about parallel arrays and two-dimensional arrays, although they don't tell you much on either one of those. Parallel arrays is where we've got stuff that matches between two different arrays, so that the zero element in each one of them is pertaining to the same thing, although they got different values. But the searches will be the big one, but until you got the basics of how to do the array, if I try to go through showing you searching the array without you having a little bit of chance to play with the array first, might confuse you some. So I'd rather hold off and do searching the arrays on Wednesday. Any questions for me? No questions? Y'all got the arrays down? Right. Any questions on all of that? If not, I'm going to let y'all go early today.
How will this work in Florida? I'm pretty sure it would work differently, right?
I can't hear you.
In logarithm, I'm pretty sure it works differently, right? Does it work differently in logarithm?
The array?
Yeah. Any other programming language?
So I just had, I've got it right here. Oops. Go to the other. So the logarithm, you'll assign it, you'll declare it, just like they've told you to declare in the other. It asks for everything when you do the declare. So it's going to ask you for a variable name that's actually the name of your array. Okay? It's going to ask you what type of data is going in that array. Just like you've been answering that question anyway. Is it integer or real or character or whatever? And then you're going to check the box that says array. And when you check that, you're going to get this additional box that says array size. You're going to declare the size of the array. Okay?
Does it show how many numbers can be in it at once?
That's the maximum number of entries that you can have in it at one time. Okay? So I said that this array has got 6 elements in it. So it's got...
What could this be useful for?
You can keep all kinds of information to be able to go back and find on there. For instance, you could have an array with each student's grades, and then you can go back through and just by looping through the array, as you go find each one, and you could have multiple types of variable data within the array. We'll drop down on that type because actually, now that's just giving you single dimension ones. But you can make all kinds of data out there that you want to have, a whole set of data, but you don't want it just out there as individual different variable names. Everything be referred to as the same. Okay? So if it was class, then each student in here maybe is the name of all the names of the student in the class. So name 0 is the first student, name 1 is the second student, name 2 is the third student, and we can go to whichever one and catch their name instead of having to have name 1 as a variable name, name 2 as a variable name, and then you can't just go look easily on that, but we can go directly to the third person then.
So it's essentially like a table.
It is a table.
It's assigned to one variable, but each variable has its own number assigned to it.
And table is the other name you'll see for arrays.
That's what I use in Lua, programming language.
Okay.
Tables are like.
A lot of language, some of the languages will call them tables, a lot of them will call them arrays. And arrays, I think, may be mathematically more correct on it or whatever. But if you've ever used tables in programming, this is identically the same thing. Tables and arrays are the same thing. Any other questions for me? We got that one answered. But they went with the name array purely in the book instead of ever using the term table in there. But like I say, it will depend on the language on exactly what it calls them. I really think in COBOL that we call them tables all over the place. All right, any other questions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all go. And then I'll say Wednesday we'll look at how to search the array. Okay?